But God sees it all. God sees it all, and he knows it. And people go on, and think, how many? I thought I deleted all those emails from my server. It's like, they were deleted. Well, we have ways of finding them. God already knows them. All the stuff in our lives, every single thing. And so here's the thing. I can't delete it. I can't erase it. I can't clear my history. But God can delete it, erase it, clear it completely. God, and he will. God can cast your history as far as the east is from the west and remember it no more and see you as brand new in his sight. Behold, all things in Christ, new creation, old things pass away, all things become new. And I wrote here in my Bible, because it wasn't there, Selah. Just think about it. On the next page in Psalm 140, I see there are 3 Selah, so I scratched one out and moved it over to Psalm 139. No, I didn't do that. But I wrote it there, Selah. Think about that, you guys. Nobody really knows what Selah means, if it means to stop, to think, to ponder, a refrain where you go back and go through it again. And, nobody really knows, but everybody knows that when you come to Selah, you stop and you think and you ponder. And you go back and you look at what was there, refrain, you go back through it again. It's just, and maybe that's why God's left it that way. And again, when you think about that God can delete my past and my sin, clear my history, because Jesus stepped in to take my shame and my guilt, because he can and he will. Look back at verse 6 again. This is for us, you guys. This knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high. I can't attain it. You guys, we cannot understand. We cannot attain and understand, embrace fully the greatness of the grace of God in our lives. I look at my life and who I was and how I lived and the truth that I knew Jesus, that I knew him. I grew up with Jesus in my home. He was familiar. And it wasn't like a religious Jesus. It was the real Jesus in my house. My dad just, a guy in love with God, a servant of Jesus Christ. My mom, again, the same, and in love with my dad and being an example of what I should want as I look for a wife that's going to be there for me at my side when it comes to ministry and life and all these things. And, knowing what I want because I'd seen the real deal. And they weren't the real deal because they tried so hard. It was because Jesus Christ lived in them. And then that's what we hopefully have passed on to our children to see. And you guys get to, and all that. And you guys, it's too wonderful for us to attain. You think about it. The grace of God. And then, to top it off, just to show you that God just isn't full of grace and mercy, but that he has a sense of humor. All of a sudden, people start calling you Pastor Steve. See, the alarm's going off already. They're coming to get me. You guys, that's God's grace. That's his mercy, because every one of us are those, who find ourselves doing the things that people do and sin thereby, but God has given us a sacrifice. Look back at verse 4 in our text. Knowing that nothing gets past God, it says, if he has sinned and he realizes his guilt and will restore, if he has sinned and he has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery or what he got by oppression or the deposit that was committed to him. You ever not gotten your deposit back? Lost your deposit. No. Or the lost thing that he supposedly found. Either way, anything about which he has sworn falsely, he says if he does it, if he restores what he took, if he goes back and rights that wrong, he shall restore it in full and shall add a fifth to it and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day he realizes his guilt. So you don't wait around. That's the idea. When you realize your guilt, you don't wait around. On the day you realize that you are wrong and and you've wronged anyone, you make it right. You make a call, you go by, and you, even though we confess to God, here's the other thing, guys, even though we confess to the Lord and he forgives us immediately, it doesn't take away that place where sometimes we need to go and make restitution with a brother. I mean, clearly the Lord hasn't called us to that place of where we have to, there's no recompense. We're not in a place where we have to take care of our sin. He's covered our sin. He's taken care of it. But one of the consequences of our sin is that, sometimes I need to confess to the Lord, and then at the same time I need to go to my brother and confess. It isn't just, hey, I'm so sorry, I got that new pair of Coronas is in my car now, and Lord, oh, you're forgiven. No, you need to go take care of that. Whatever it is, if maybe it's taking something back to the lost and found that you found. Well, the lost and found, and somebody else is just going to get it. So what? It's not yours. Never was. I remember one time, when I was working at Banana Moon, and I found this ring, and I was like, whoa, nice ring, and I thought, oh, this belongs to somebody, And I thought if I take it to security, I'm not going to get it. It's, even if the person doesn't come and find it, they're not going to, security gets it, Somebody else in that place is going to get it, and not me. And I just remember, this is when I'd recommitted my heart to the Lord already, and I just knew, you know what? It's not yours. It doesn't matter. But so many times, you guys, I think the Lord, but again, he brings us to the place of realizing our guilt, and he knows and he sees, and he's waiting for us. He's wanting, I believe he's cheering us on to do the right thing. Just like you would for your child. And the priest shall make atonement for him, verse 7, before the Lord, and he shall be forgiven for any of the things that one may do, and thereby become guilty. So there's just things that we do that bring guilt upon us. And more than ever, forgiveness is available, as we see here. But we still have to realize our guilt, come to Jesus, sometimes go to our brother, make restitution. And interesting as well that he adds a few times in here, add a fifth to it. He's not talking about give him a bottle of vodka when you show, hey, sorry, here you go. No, he's talking about adding a fifth of whatever the property was or what was found. It's like really, really doing things right, really making things right. Going over and beyond, showing